Shalom. The parasha of this week, of this coming Shabbat, is Parashat Mishpatim, the laws. The laws that, in fact, specific laws that have to do between one and his fellow man. Those are the laws that are written in Parashat Mishpatim, such as the laws that have to do with stealing, with causing damages. All this we have to know how to behave in life between one and another. And the laws that are brought in this parasha, in fact, are common laws, logical laws, that perhaps some people might think that even without the Torah, people would be inclined to understand the necessity of these laws, even among the goyim, even among the nations. So we can call this parasha a modern parasha, because it talks about things that every human being agrees that it should be definitely established in the world. There is only one problem, that the first law that appears to be in Parashat Mishpatim is the law of the Hebrew slave. It says in the Torah, Ki tikne eved ivri, when you purchase, when you acquire a Hebrew slave, shesh shanim ya'avod, uvashevi'it yetze lachofshi chinam. He shall work for you 6 years, and then on the 7th year, it is an obligation for the master to send him to his freedom, to give him his freedom. Now, one question at least we should ask about this. We just read the parasha last week, Parashat Yitro, in which we read about the 10 Commandments and the Torah given to the Jewish people at the mountain of Sinai at the hands of Moses, of Moshe. And then the Parashat Mishpatim begins with the laws of the Hebrew slave. There is something that's missing here. It's unbelievable. We know that the Torah is eternal. Every single law that is written in the Torah is forever. Today there is no slavery. Of course not, definitely not among the Jewish people. So why do we need this? It's okay to have it, this law, to have it somewhere in the Torah. How to behave with the Hebrew slave. Okay, I understand, but why the first one of these laws that gives us the impression that this law is the most important law after the 10 Commandments? Doesn't make sense. Of course, there is a way how to explain it. There is logic. The logic is that, number one, we should always remember that the Jewish people came from a very big slavery in Egypt. For 200 years, 210 years, the Jewish people were enslaved in Egypt. Why is it that God put us into such slavery? The Torah does not tell us. What was our sin? That God came to Abraham and he said to him, Yadoa teda ki ger yeh zaracha be'eretz lo lahem. You should know that your descendants are going to be in a foreign nation, among a foreign nation. Va'avadum ve'innu otam 400 shana, and they shall be there enslaved for the duration of 400 years, from the time they will be there until the time they will be redeemed, and that after that there will be redemption. But the Torah does not tell us what was our sin, what have we done. We have to understand that. Number one, because we were slaves, then we understand the meaning of suffering. God is interested in the Jewish people to be the nation to receive the Torah. Not every nation can receive the Torah. The Talmud tells us in Masechet Avodah Zarah, page 2, that God did turn to the nations. There is a difference in opinions between the Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Lotzato, in his book Derech Hashem, and the Maharal in the book Netzach Israel. How true is this revelation that God turned also to the nations and He asked them if they want to receive the Torah? According to the Ramchal, it happened really, exactly, that God turned to the nations twice. Once before Avraham, and He saw that the nations did not agree, and then He gave them another opportunity after Avraham. Then He gave them this opportunity, which again they denied, and that's when God decided that it will be the Jewish people who will be the one to receive the Torah. According to the opinion of the Maharal of Prague, he says, the truth is that God decided about the Jewish people from its inception. From the very beginning, God understood that the only nation that is ready, that will be ready, that is well prepared to receive the Torah is only the Jewish people. The nations will not be able to receive the nation. They are not prepared. They are not motivated to be able to receive the Torah and to fulfill it. Impossible. Only the Jewish people. Perhaps this is the reason why God wanted us to be enslaved. Knowing the nature of the Jewish people being the descendants of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, God knows that in the heart of every Jew there was already those good traits of character that came from our forefathers, such as compassion, such as loving kindness and charity, shyness, modesty. That does not mean that this you could see today so clearly. But if you come to ponder upon the nature of the Jew, even the nations know that if there is real compassion, you find it among the Jews. If there is real loving kindness and charity, go to the Jew. It is known. The fact that today we see different things among Jews, that's because of the duration of a long exile. At the same time, we did not lose those traits of character. It's right there. Sometimes it's hidden, sometimes it's clear to the eyes of everyone. And God knew the nations are not ready for the Torah. Only the Jewish people are ready. When you have those traits of character of compassion, then you are definitely ready to receive the Torah. Because God is interested in the humanity, in the humanness, that people should be human and behave not with atrocities, not with cruelties, but rather with compassion and charity. That's the reason why the law of the Hebrew slave starts this Parashat Mishpatim. Since we were slaves, and since those traits of character became more profound, more established because of the slavery, that we had compassion towards each other, we helped each other, we saw the Jew being in the same situation, in that kind of terrible slavery, so that brought the Jew to come and help his fellow Jew, and so forth and so forth. All this has made up a nation that God says, this nation is the nation to whom I will give the Torah. And that's the reason why the law of the Hebrew slave appears first in Parashat Mishpatim. Because if you come to see the laws regarding the Hebrew slave, it's almost impossible to understand. Here it says that, let's say, a Jew committed the sin of stealing. Now he was caught and he has to pay back, but he doesn't have. He doesn't have enough money, so the Beit Din decided to sell him to another Jew for the duration of 6 years. On the 7th year, he has to send him to his freedom. Now, what are the obligations of the Jew who is the master of this Hebrew slave? Let's see what the Talmud in Masechet Kiddushin on page 20, what it says there. It says, first the Torah says in the book of Devarim, in Deuteronomy, it says, Ki tov lo imach, that the slave, you have a Hebrew slave, the Hebrew slave must be comfortable with you. What does it mean with you? So the Talmud says, Eimecha b'ma'achal, Eimecha b'mishteh. He should be with you in the same situation that you are. He should have the same situation, whether it is with food or drink. Shelo tehe ata ochel pat nekiya vehu ochel pat kevar. You shouldn't let yourself enjoy a good kind of bread and you give the Hebrew slave a bad kind of bread. Ata shote yain yashan. You enjoy drinking old wine and you give the slave new wine. No. Or ata yashen al gabe mochin. You allow yourself to sleep on a very comfortable bed, and you let your slave sleep on the floor or on the straw. No way. Mikan amru. Whatever the master has, that's what he has to give to the Hebrew slave. From this, our sages learned, Kol hakone eved ivri kekone adon le'atzmo. Anyone who has acquired a Hebrew slave, he should know, he should realize that he didn't buy a slave, he bought a master to himself. Now, this is too much to demand from a person. I mean, a person has, he spent a lot of money in order to buy a slave, a Hebrew slave. Now he has to give him the same comfort that he has. That's not easy to fulfill. You go to the nations, there is no nation that will agree to that. The Jewish people agreed to that. The Jewish people agreed to every single commandment of the Torah, 613 commandments that the Torah gives us, plus 7 more laws that were given to us by our sages. All this was accepted by the Jewish people without hesitation. At the end of this Parashat Mishpatim, it says that when Moshe brought the Torah, which is known as the Berit, as the covenant with God. Why do we call the Torah covenant, by the way? Because it's a covenant with God. You take the Torah, good. If no one will receive the Torah, then God will practically destroy the world. There is no reason for the world to be created, our sages said, if it is not for the Torah. Im lo beriti yomam v'layla chukot shamayim va'aretz lo samti. God says, I would not bother create the laws of the universe if it was not for that covenant which we call the Torah. So, in a way we understand, because of Hashem, because of the Jewish people who received the Torah, so the world is still in existence. There is no Torah, there is no world. But who is the one to receive such a Torah, which has so many commandments, 620 commandments, 613 plus 7, right? The nations refuse to receive the Torah because they tell us first what is written there. Ma ketiv ba. That's what the Talmud tells us. That God turns to the nations, but they refused. You mean they were crazy? No, they were very logical. It's very normal. Nobody can accept something without looking at what he is accepting. But the Jewish people did it. It says in the Torah at the end, Vaikach Sefer HaBerit, Vaikra be'oznei ha'am. And Moshe took the book of the Berit, which is the Torah, and he read for the Jewish people. Vayomeru, and all of them reacted in such a way. Kol asher diber Hashem na'aseh v'nishma. Everything that God said, we shall do, we shall accept, and later we will understand. This is beyond any logic. That's not logical. Usually you have to understand something before you say yes or no, as the nations did. Whether it is according to the Ramchal or the Maharal, it's all the same. Because the fact that the reason why God, even according to the Maharal, who says that God already from the very beginning decided that the Jewish people would be the nation to receive the Torah, it's because God saw that only the Jewish people, because of their natural traits of character, good traits of character, such as compassion, they are ready to be the ones to accept the Torah. But the nations will not be able to fulfill the Torah because they are not in that kind of nature. They don't have that kind of nature. They are not ready to receive the Torah. So that's the point. The point is that they said Na'aseh v'nishma. Illogical. But that was something only a genius could say that. In fact, it says that our sages say in the Talmud, in Masechet Shabbat on page 88, that when the Jewish people said Na'aseh v'nishma, we shall do, and then we will understand. Then Yatz'a bat kol ve'amera. There was a heavenly voice that came from heaven and said, who revealed this secret to my children? Migila razeh levanai. That only the angels use. Now that's unbelievable. The angels. What is exactly the job of the angels? The angels serve God without questions. That's the job of the angels. But the Jewish people, by declaring that we shall do, before we learn, before we understand, they have practically, they did something that only the angels are doing. In fact, our sages said that human beings could be even higher than angels, because human beings have free will. It's not easy for them to decide to go against evil and do only good. But the angels are doing only good because they were prepared, they were created for that. So that's why there is a pasuk, a verse in the book of Tehillim by King David in chapter 103. And there it says, Gibore koach oseh devaro lishmoa bekol devaro. Barechu Hashem malachav. Bless Hashem, bless your angels, because they have la'asot lishmoa bekol devaro. First they said na'aseh, and then they said nishma. Who are these angels? So apparently King David understood that the Jewish people they have done the same way as only the angels can do. And why? By saying the na'aseh before saying the nishma. The nishma. So as the Talmud says, baresha na'aseh, basefa nishma. That's not logical. That's not natural. Of course. Who says that the Jewish people is natural? There's no nature. There is nothing normal about the Jewish people. I mean, the fact that the Jewish people are still in existence is not normal. The world has persecuted the Jewish people for so many generations. It is impossible to conceive in a logical mind that this nation could still be in existence. But again, the Jewish people is not normal. The nations know that. The nations are aware of that fact, that the Jewish people are not normal. Why? Because they are still in existence. And you want to know why they are still in existence? Because at the mountain of Sinai they said, Na'aseh v'nishma. Because they accepted the Torah without any conditions. Later on, of course, their job, the first job of every Jew is to learn Torah. But number one, have this as a decision that cannot change, to do the Torah no matter what. That's the reason why every Jew who is observant, he observes the Torah whether he understands it or not. There are many laws that are difficult to understand. They have to accept them. There are so many questions. That does not mean that we have the answers to all the questions. There are many questions, indeed, but those that we can understand, we understand and we do. Those we cannot understand, we do them anyway. The time will come in which we will understand. So that's the point. And all this why. Here is the secret of everything. That's the reason why Hashem wanted us to be slaves in the beginning. Because only slaves will be able to receive the Torah like a slave. When he is obligated by the master to do something, he doesn't ask any questions. He does it whether he understands it or not. That's exactly the secret of Naaseh Venishma. They behaved like slaves. Slaves to whom? Like the Torah says, Ki li bnei Israel avadim, avadai hem, velo avadim la avadim. The Torah says that God proclaims the Jewish people to be His servants, slaves, but not servants to anybody else. Indeed, the Jewish people were not, they never capitulated to be the slaves of someone else. Of course, I'm not talking about the slavery in Egypt, because that was already established by God Himself. Why? To prepare the nation to be able to stand at the mountain of Sinai and to say Naaseh Venishma, which only a slave can do. But this time it's the slave. This slavery is serving God. Serving God, you don't ask questions. Of course, with the coming of the Mashiach, after the redemption, we shall understand everything. We shall understand the Torah does not consist of only this Torah that we have in front of us. There is also the inside Torah, the secrets of the Torah, the Kabbalah. That also, even today we learn Kabbalah. That does not mean that we understand everything. But if we do it with the proper intention, with the will that all we want is to serve the Almighty, the day will come in which we will understand also those secrets, and then we will know the importance, the real importance of the Jewish people in the eyes of God. No wonder God calls us His servants, and He calls us also His children. Beni Bechori Israel. My first son is Israel. And as it says in the Torah, Banim atem Lashem Elokechem. You are the children of God, your God. To be His child is to be a son who does the will of his father without asking too many questions. He does not ask, hey father, first tell me what is the logic behind it. He does it, and that's it. That's being a son of God or the servant of God. Shabbat Shalom.